Our report is all about inventory management. Inventory management is the supervision of non-capitalized assets, inventory, and stock items. As a component of supply chain management, inventory management supervises the flow of goods from manufacturers to warehouses and from these facilities to point of sale. A key function of inventory management is to keep a detailed record of each new or returned product as it enters or leaves a warehouse or point of sale. Inventories are important to all types of organizations, their employees, and their supply chains. Effective inventory management is essential for realizing the full potential of any supply chain. Inventory management saves you money and allows you to fulfill your customers' needs. In other words, it enables successful cost control of operations. Knowing what you have, what is in your warehouse, and how to manage the supply chain management properly is the backbone of the business. For the third slide, it is inventory and supply chains. The value of inventory management becomes apparent when the complexity of the supply chain is recognized. The flow of materials determines inventory levels. As part of the supply chain, inventory management includes several different aspects such as controlling and overseeing purchases from suppliers and customers, maintaining the storage of stock, controlling the amount of product for sale, and order fulfillment. Now we're on the fourth slide. Pressures for small inventories. First is cost of capital. It is the opportunity cost of investing in an asset relative to the expected return on assets of similar risk. Second, storage and handling costs, incurred when a firm could use storage space productively in some other way. Fourth, taxes, insurance, and shrinkage. More taxes are paid if end-of-year inventories are high, and the cost of insuring the inventories increases. There are three forms of shrinkage. First is pilferage. It is theft of inventory. Second, obsolescence. Inventory cannot be used or sold at full value. Third is deterioration. It is physical spoliage or damage. And for the fifth slide, pressures for large inventories. First is customer service. Creating inventory can speed delivery and improve the firm's on-time delivery of goods. High inventory levels reduce the potential for stockouts and back orders, which are key concerns of wholesalers and retailers. Second is ordering costs. Each time a firm places a new order, it incurs an ordering cost, or the cost of preparing a purchase order for a supplier or a production order for manufacturing. Third is setup costs. The cost involved in changing over a machine or workspace to produce a different item is the setup cost. Inventory management is used to manage customer demand and to create value through internal and external operations. Several small and large companies have some form of inventory that is utilized in day-to-day operation to meet customer demands. There are trade-offs to consider in inventory management, and various pressures exist depending on the size of the inventory. If a firm has a small inventory, then they run the risk of a shortage, which will ultimately damage the relationship with the customers since their demands were not met. However, having a large inventory has the potential to reduce profitability. Determining the size of the inventory requires a company to understand their market and know the advantages and disadvantages of the both volumes.
Labor and equipment utilization. By creating more inventory, management can increase workforce productivity and facilitate utilization in three ways. First is placing larger, less frequent production. Two is holding inventory. And three, building inventories. Transportation costs. Sometimes, outbound transportation costs can be reduced by increasing inventory levels. So, transportation is the cost na ginagamit po or expense na ginagamit to move products or assets to a different place. Having inventory on hand allows more full carload shipments to be made and minimize the need to expedite shipments by more expensive modes of transportation. Payments to suppliers. A firm often can reduce total payments to suppliers if it can tolerate higher inventory levels. So, dun po pumapasok yung quantity discounts, which means they can have discount or the price will drop per unit when the order is sufficiently large, or yun po yung incentive to large quantities. Types of inventory. There are three categories of inventory: raw materials, work in process, and finished goods. Raw materials are the inventories needed for the production of services or goods. It is considered to be the inputs to the transformation process of the firm or the basic material. Work in process consists of items such as components or assemblies needed to produce a final product in manufacturing. It is partially completed goods, raw materials na magiging finished product. Finished goods. In manufacturing plants, warehouses, and retail outlets are the items sold to the firm's customers. So, yun po yung manufactured goods in stock that are available for customers' purchase. Forms of inventory. Cycle inventory. The portion of total inventory that varies directly with lot size. Determining how frequently to order and what quantity is called lot sizing. Two principles apply. It is a practice used to verify the inventory you have on hand. Maintaining cycle inventory can improve the profitability and customer satisfaction by never running out of stock. Safety stock inventory. To avoid customer service problems and the hidden cost of unavailable components, companies hold safety stock. It is used when the actual demand exceeds a sales forecast or if production output is less than planned. Yun po yung stock pag out of stock ang materials na kailangang i-consume ng customer. Anticipation inventory. Inventory used to absorb uneven rates of demand or supply which businesses often face is referred to as anticipation inventory. So, that is the excess level of on-hand inventory. Pipeline inventory. Inventory that is created when an order for an item is issued but not yet received is called pipeline inventory. Pipeline inventory is the stock that is currently in transit between locations and has not yet been purchased by the consumer. Inventory reduction tactics. Cycle inventory. The primary lever to reduce cycle inventory is simply to reduce the lot sizes of items moving in the supply chain. Reduce ordering and setup costs and allow queue to be reduced. Increase repeatability to eliminate the need for changeovers. This method is a common part of many businesses' inventory management practices, as it ultimately helps ensure that customers can get what they want, when they want it, and while keeping inventory holding costs as low as possible.
Inventory reduction tactics. Number 2 is safety stock inventory. The primary lever to reduce safety stock inventory is to place order closer to the time when they must be received. It also means that it is held all the times regardless of the quantity of the stock or a product to that certain company. It also describes that the stock that is kept on their hand and it is helpful for a certain demands to that company. Safety stock inventory also improves demand forecast so that the fewer surprises come from the customer, cut the lead times of purchase or produce items to reduce demand uncertainties, reduce supplies uncertainties, and rely more on equipment and labor buffers such as capacity, cushions, and cross-trained workers. Number 3 is the anticipation inventory. The primary lever to reduce anticipation inventory is simply to match demand rate with production rate. Secondary levers can be used to even out customer demand in the following ways, like add new product with different demand cycles so that a peak in the demand for one product compensates for the seasonal low for another. Provide off-season promotional campaigns and offer seasonal pricing plans. Anticipation inventory also means that this anticipates future demands or to build up to help the level of the production to a certain company, add to reduce cost of changing rates of the product or the goods that the company has. Number 4 is the pipeline inventory. Pipeline inventory, an operation manager has direct control over lead times but not demand rates. Because pipeline inventory is a function of demand during the lead time. Pipeline inventory is an inventory that is moving from point to point in the materials flow system. It also has two levers, which is the primary lever is the lead time, which means can improve the productivity, increasing output, and especially the revenue. And the secondary lever is that can help managers times, which means also that find more responsive supplier and select new carriers for shipment between stocking location or improve materials handling within the plant. And the second is improving the information system could overcome information delay between a distribution center or an retailer. ABC analysis. ABC analysis is the process of dividing SKU, which means stock keeping unit, into three classes according to their dollar usage so that manager can focus on items that have the highest dollar value. ABC analysis is an inventory categorized techniques and it is divided into three classes, which are the A item is to control and accurate records, the B item is to control and good records, and the C item is the simplest control possible in minimal records. SKU, a stock keeping unit, is an individual item or product that has identifying code and it is held in inventory somewhere along the supply chain. SKU is stock keeping unit. This is also meant that is a scannable barcode. Most of this is seen printed on the product labels in the store. ABC analysis. This method is the equivalent of creating a Pareto chart except that is implied to inventory rather than to process errors. A. Class A items typically represent only about 20% of the SKU but account for 80% of the dollar usage. B. Class B items account for another 30% of the SKU but only 50% of the dollar usage. Finally, 50% of the SKU fall in Class C, representing a mere 5% of the dollar usage. The goal of ABC analysis is to identify the Class A SKU so management can control their inventory levels.
The analysis begins by multiplying the annual demand rate for an stock keeping unit by the dollar value of 1 unit of that stock keeping unit to determine its dollar usage. After ranking the stock keeping units on the basis of the dollar usage and creating the Pareto chart, the analyst looks for natural changes in slope. Creating ABC inventory classifications is useless unless inventory records are accurate. Another method is to secure inventory behind locked doors or gates to prevent unauthorized or unreported withdrawals. This method also guards against accidentally storing newly received inventory in the wrong locations where it can be lost for months. Cycle counting can also be used, whereby storeroom personnel physically count a small percentage of the total number of stock keeping units each day and correcting errors that they find. Economic order quantity. Supply chain managers face conflicting pressures to keep inventories low enough to avoid excess inventory holding costs but high enough to reduce ordering and setup costs. Inventory holding cost is the sum of the cost of capital and the variable cost of keeping items on hand, such as storage and handling, taxes, insurance, and shrinkage, while the ordering cost is the cost of preparing a purchase order for a supplier or a production order for the shop, while setup cost is the cost of changing over a machine to produce a different item. A good starting point for balancing these conflicting pressures and determining the best cycle inventory level for an item is finding the economic order quantity or the EOQ, which is the lot size that minimizes total annual cycle inventory holding and ordering costs. The approach to determining the EOQ is based on the following assumptions. The first one is the demand rate for the item is constant. For example, is always 10 units per day and known with certainty. Second, no constraints are placed, such as truck capacity or materials handling limitations on the size of each lot. The third one is the only two relevant costs are the inventory holding cost and the fixed cost per lot for ordering or setup. The fourth assumption is decisions for one item can be made independently of decisions for other items. In other words, no advantage is gained in combining several orders going to the same supplier. And the fifth assumption is the lead time is constant. It is always 14 days and known with certainty. The amount received is exactly what was ordered and it arrives at all at once rather than piecemeal. The economic order quantity will be optimal when all five assumptions are satisfied. In reality, few situations are so simple. Nonetheless, the economic order quantity is often reasonable approximation of the appropriate lot size, even when several of the assumptions do not quite apply. Here are some guidelines on when to use or modify the economic order quantity. The first one is do not use the economic order quantity. Do not use the economic order quantity if you use the make-to-order strategy and your customer specifies that the entire order will be delivered in one shipment. Do not use the economic order quantity if the order is constrained by capacity limitations such as the size of the firm's ovens, amount of testing equipment, or number of delivery trucks.
Modify EOQ if significant quantity discount are given for ordering larger lots. In this part, the purchase unit price is discounted as the ordering become larger. If replenishment of the inventory is not instantaneous, which can happen if the item must be used or sold as soon as they are finished without waiting until the entire lot has been completed. Use the EOQ if you follow a make-to-stock strategy and the item has relatively stable demand. Make-to-stock strategy. It is the additional production that is used by business to match the inventory with anticipated consumer demand. They use it to have supply enough stock to meet those orders. In this part, the EOQ used if you followed a make-to-stock strategy. Ito din yung karaniwang ginagawa ng isang company kung saan nag-stock sila ng mga products or item kasi nga tayong mga tao or consumer, madami tayong gusto or kailangan. So, minsan, na ginagawa nila is nag-stock na lang sila para supply lang supply at hindi sila maubusan ng may bebenta sa mga consumer. The EOQ used if your carrying cost per unit and setup or ordering costs are known and relatively stable. Model. So, ito yung on-hand inventory units. Dito is the received order. And dito ay ang inventory depletion or demand rate. And ito naman ang average cycle inventory. At dito naman yung cycle. Na makikita nyo din dyan sa PowerPoint. This is the formula for EOQ. C equals Q over 2 times H plus D over Q times S. C is the total annual cycle or inventory cost. Q, lot size in units. H is cost of holding 1 unit in inventory for a year, often expressed as percentage of the item's value. D is the annual demand in unit per a year. S, cost of ordering or setting up one lot in dollars per lot. Sometimes, inventory policies are based on the time between replenishment orders, rather than on the number of units in the lot size. The time between orders or TBO for a particular lot size is the average elapsed time between receiving or placing replenishment orders of Q units. Expressed as fraction of a year, the TBO is simplified Q divided by annual demand. When we use the EOQ and the express time in terms of a month, the TBO equals EOQ over D times 12 months or a year. When the EOQ is used, the time between orders can be expressed in various ways for the same time period. So for example, EOQ is 75. D is 936 units. So this is the formula. $75 divided by 936 unit times 12 equals 96 months. Ito naman ay 52 weeks. So equals 75 divided by 936 units times 52 weeks equals 4.17 weeks. At kung 365 days naman is 75 divided by 936 times 365 days equals 29.25 days.
Managerial insights from the EOQ. Subjecting the EOQ formula to sensitivity analysis can yield valuable insights into the management of inventories. Sensitivity analysis is a technique for systematically changing crucial parameters to determine the effects of a change. The table shows the effect on the EOQ when we substitute different values into the numerator or denominator of the formula. As you can see in the table below, in terms of demand, when the demand increases, the EOQ will also increase. In the comments, we can see that increase in lot size is in proportion to the square root of D. In terms of order or setup cost, when the setup cost decrease, the EOQ will also decrease. And as we can see in the comments, weeks of supply decreases and inventory turnover increases because the lot size decreases. The last is the holding cost, which is the denominator. When the holding cost decrease, the EOQ change will increase. In the comments, we can see that larger lots are justified when holding costs decrease. Inventory control systems. An inventory control system responds to both questions. The question of when and how much. In selecting an inventory control system for a particular application, the nature of the demands imposed on the inventory items is crucial. An important distinction between types of inventory is whether an item is subject to dependent or independent demand. The independent demand is the demand for a finished product such as computer, a bicycle, or even a pizza. The dependent demand on the other hand, is the demand for component parts of sub-assemblies. For example, yung microchips sa computer, the wheels on a bicycle, or the cheese on the pizza. So, they are the sub-assemblies of the finished product. Continuous review system. A continuous review or queue system, sometimes called a reorder point or ROP system or a fixed order quantity system, tracks the remaining inventory of a SKU each time a withdrawal is made to determine whether it is time to reorder. At each review, a decision is made about SKU's inventory position. If it is judged to be too low, the system triggers a new order. The inventory position, or the IP, measures the SKU's ability to satisfy future demand. It includes scheduled receipts, which are orders that have been placed but have not yet been received, plus on-hand inventory minus back orders. Sometimes scheduled receipts are called open doors. The formula for the continuous review system is inventory position equals on-hand inventory plus scheduled receipts minus back orders. When the inventory position reaches a predetermined minimum level, called the reorder point, a fixed quantity queue of the SKU is ordered. In a continuous review system, although the order quantity queue is fixed, the time between orders can vary. I will show you an example. The example is the on-hand inventory is only 10 units and the reorder point R is 100. There are no back orders and one open order for 200 units. Should a new order be placed? So the question is answerable by yes or no, whether a new order should be placed or not. So the given is the on-hand inventory, which is 10 units, plus the SR, which is 200 units, and given the fact that there are no back orders, so 0, the formula will be inventory position equals 10 plus 200 minus 0. The answer will be 210. The reorder point is 100. So the decision will be no new order because the reorder point is 100, but the inventory position exceeds 100. So there is no need for new order yet. Selecting the reorder point when demand and lead time are constant. The figure below shows how the system operates when demand and lead time are constant. The downward sloping line represents the on-hand inventory, which is being depleted at a constant rate. When it reaches reorder point, the horizontal line, a new order for Q units is placed. The on-hand inventory continues to drop throughout the lead time until the order is received. At that time, which marks the end of the lead time, on-hand inventory jumps by Q units. A new order arrives just when inventory drops to 0. The TPO is the same for each cycle. Just after a new order is placed, at the start of the lead time, inventory position increases by Q, as shown by the dashed line. The inventory position exceeds the on-hand inventory by the same margin throughout the lead time. At the end of the lead time, when scheduled receipts convert to on-hand inventory, inventory position equals on-hand inventory once again. The key point here is to compare inventory position and not the on-hand inventory with reorder point in deciding whether to reorder. A common error is to ignore scheduled receipts or back orders.
Number 2. Selecting reorder point when demand is variable and lead time is constant. Let us always remember that demand is subject to unpredictability, but there are instances that we may be able to get a high percentage rate of future incoming demands. So, if the demand is unpredictable and lead time is constant, our reorder point is equal to the average demand during lead time, or the inventory needed during lead time, plus the safety stock. So, what is the safety stock? For a firm to be able to have a smooth and constant flow of operation among its supply chain, safety stock guarantees the need of the firm when demand of the consumers goes ways beyond the expected desired value of the stocks. So how do we compute for the safety stock? So here's the formula. Safety stock is equals to the number of standard deviation corresponding to the service level probability multiplied by the standard deviation of demand during lead time. There are 3 steps to arrive at the reorder point. Number 1, choose an appropriate service level policy. Number 2, determine the distribution of the demand during lead time. For number 1 and number 2, this means that a company should have a corresponding stock of inventories for the rate of expected demand for the firm to be able to replenish its new stocks for the upcoming days to avoid having loss in sales and not hitting a stock out. Number 3, determine the safety stock and reorder point levels. A safety stock is added to ensure that the demand during the lead time is sufficient and be able to cope up to the demands of the consumer while having to replenish its new inventories. Having a standard reorder point level gives the firm time to adjust and make decisions when the demand of the consumer goes beyond it. Number 3, selecting the reorder point when demand is constant and lead time is variable. If only lead time is variable, our reorder point is equal to the average demand rate multiplied by the average lead time added to our safety stock. Number 4, selecting the reorder point when both demand and lead time are variable. If our demand and lead time are variable, our reorder point will be the average weekly demand multiplied by the average lead time in weeks added to our constant safety stock, which is represented as number of standard deviation of service level probability multiplied by the standard deviation of demands and lead time. Periodic review system. An alternative inventory control system is the periodic review system, sometimes called fixed interval reorder system or periodic reorder system, in which an item's inventory position is reviewed periodically rather than continuously.
In periodic review system, we have this thing called selecting the time between reviews. So to run the P system, so the managers must take two decisions. The first one is to determine the length of time between reviews. So yung haba ng oras between reviews. Then the next one is the target inventory level. So dapat nilang malaman kung ano ba yung target nila, kung hanggang saan ba yung target nila. In the target inventory level, we also have to select when both demand and lead time are variable or parehas silang hahanapin. The formula is T or time is equal to average demand X, which is the variable thing, then P plus L plus safety stock for the protection interval. So what is the formula for safety stock? The formula for safety stock is equal to Z standard deviation of P plus L, where the standard deviation of P plus L is equal to standard deviation of D, the square root of P plus L. How about if the target inventory level when demand is variable and the lead time is constant or unchanged? In selecting the target inventory level when both demand and lead time are variable, the most useful approach is simulation, which is estimating or pagtansya-tansya lang. So, anong gagamitin nating mga variables? So, given discrete probability or iba't ibang probability, makakagawa tayo or makakapag-estimate tayo to have the protection interval distribution. In calculating total P system costs, this is the formula. So, C is equal to average demand times periodic review over 2 times H, which is the cost of holding 1 unit in inventory for a year, plus D, which is the annual demand, over average demand times periodic review. Then, multiply 2S, which is the order cost, plus H, which is the cost of holding 1 unit in inventory for a year, times safety stock. The single bin system is an inventory method, which is we only have one bin. So here the inventory is must do periodically, or we can say once a week, once a month, or pana-panahon. P system is a good thing. So let me tell you the advantages of a P system. So the system is convenient. The system is convenient because replenishments are made at fixed intervals. So yung pagbabago ay fixed, hindi na babago, kaya mas madali itong gamitin. The next is orders for multiple items from the same supplier can be combined into a single purchase order. Say for instance, we have different items. Marami tayong items but we have same supplier. So dito, ang mas maganda sa kay P-System, meron tayo, pwede natin siyang gawing single purchase order. So mas madali yung inventory. The next is the inventory position. Only need to know when a review is made kapag ka ginagawa na yung review and hindi siya continuously, unlike the Q system na tuloy-tuloy, dito periodically, as stated, panapanahon, hindi palagi. The Q system has its own advantages. So the first one is the review frequency of each SKU may be individualized. So SKU, the stock keeping unit, or yung normally yung mga nakikita nating barcode sa mga items. The next is fixed lot sizes. If large enough, kapag ka tama na yung laki niya, can result in quantity discounts. May mga discounts, pwedeng ma-discounts. So, the next is lower safety stocks results in savings. Kapag ka pababa yung safety stocks at marami nang na-out, kakunti na yung mga stocks, so it will result in savings.